That dirty, scratched-up dime sitting at the bottom of your cup holder looks like absolute garbage, but collectors just paid an astonishing $45,000 for one exactly like it. Millions of people are spending these ugly, worn-out dimes every single day, completely blind to the hidden fortune slipping right through their fingers. First coin. If you happen to find a 1965 Roosevelt dime that looks like it has been dragged through the mud, run over by a lawnmower, and left to rot in a parking lot for 40 years, do not throw it away and definitely do not spend it. That ugly, scratched, and heavily circulated piece of metal could be the ultimate ticket to a massive payday. To the untrained eye, a worn-out 1965 dime is worth exactly 10 cents, and most people wouldn't give it a second glance. It looks dull, it feels a bit strange, and it usually has a dark, dirty gray color that makes it look completely worthless. But if you know the massive mistake the United States Mint made during that exact year, that dirty little coin becomes an absolute treasure. To understand why this specific ugly coin is worth a fortune, you have to look back at what was happening in the country in the mid-1960s. Before 1965, the United States Mint made all of its dimes, quarters, and half dollars out of 90% silver. But by 1964, the price of silver was skyrocketing, and people were hoarding coins just to melt them down for the precious metal. The government was facing a massive coin shortage, so they made a historic decision to eliminate silver from dimes and quarters starting in 1965. They switched to a cheaper composition made of copper and nickel, which is exactly what we use today. The mint completely overhauled its machines, brought in tons of new metal sheets, and started cranking out billions of the new Clad dimes. Next coin. If you dig through your loose pocket change or check the bottom of your purse and pull out a 1988 Roosevelt dime that looks like an absolute disaster, you might be tempted to spend it as fast as you can. It might be covered in dark, ugly discoloration, looking almost entirely black, copper orange, or heavily deformed on one side. Most normal people would assume it was dropped in a fire, exposed to harsh chemicals, or ruined by a stray tool in someone's garage. But before you toss that ugly, battered 10-cent piece into a vending machine, you need to look very closely. If that 1988 dime carries one of two massive manufacturing errors from the late 1980s, that ugly little coin could easily pay for your next several car payments, or even a luxury vacation. The first major reason a 1988 dime can look incredibly ugly but be secretly worth a fortune is a spectacular glitch known as a missing clad layer. To understand this error, you have to realize how our modern pocket change is actually manufactured. Since 1965, American dimes have been made using a layered system, kind of like a metallic sandwich. The inside core is made of pure, solid copper, which gives the coin its weight and structure. To make it look silver and prevent it from wearing out too fast, the United States Mint bonds an outer layer of shiny copper nickel to both the front and back of that copper core. This bonding process happens long before the coins are actually stamped with Roosevelt's face. Next coin. If you happen to find a 1989 Roosevelt dime that looks like it has been through an absolute war, do not make the mistake of spending it. To the average person, a coin that is severely discolored, heavily scratched, or weirdly misshapen looks like total garage sale junk. It might be coated in a layer of dark, sticky grease, or it might look like someone took a pair of pliers and tried to chew the edges off. But in the world of high-stakes coin collecting, that exact ugliness could be the key to a massive hidden payout. The year 1989 was a time of massive production at the United States Mint, and because they were pumping out hundreds of millions of dimes at lightning speed, several spectacular manufacturing disasters slipped past quality control and made it directly into public circulation. The first major error you need to look for on a dirty 1989 dime involves a mechanical glitch with the heavy steel dies that stamp the design onto the metal. It is known as a major die break, or more commonly among collectors, a CUD error. As the metal dies strike thousands of coins an hour with tons of intense hydraulic pressure, the steel eventually gets tired and starts to crack. If a crack happens near the very edge of the die, a piece of the steel can completely break off and fall away. When the damaged die slams down onto the next 1989 dime blank, the raw, molten metal under pressure squeezes up into that broken, empty cavity. Next coin. If you happen to slide a 1999 Roosevelt dime out of a vending machine return or pick one up off a dirty gas station floor, you will likely notice that it looks completely beaten to death. It might look significantly wider than a normal dime, completely flat on the edges, and covered in a thick layer of dark, sticky grease. The rim might look totally mangled, and the overall coin could look so strange that you might think someone flattened it on a train track or slammed it with a heavy hammer. Most people would instantly look at this warped piece of pocket change and think it was just a piece of damaged garbage. But before you casually throw it into a tip jar, you need to check for a highly dramatic, hidden error. If that ugly, stretched out 1999 dime is a genuine product of a United States mint production disaster, it is an incredibly valuable prize that collectors will happily pay hundreds of dollars to own. The main reason a 1999 dime can look completely flat, wide, and deformed but be secretly worth a fortune is a fascinating manufacturing mistake known as a Broadstrike error. To truly understand why this makes the coin so valuable, you have to look at how the mint keeps coins perfectly uniform and round when they are stamped. When a round metal blank enters the coin press, it drops into a very specific piece of machinery called the collar die. The collar is essentially a solid steel ring that acts like a retaining wall around the outside edge of the coin. When the massive steel dies slam down from above and below with tons of hydraulic pressure, the metal blank wants to burst outward. The steel collar ring stops it from expanding, forcing the metal to stay perfectly round and stamping those crisp, vertical ridges along the edge of the dime at the exact same time. Next coin. If you find a year 2000 Roosevelt dime that looks like it has been dropped in a mud puddle, stepped on, and scratched up beyond belief, do not toss it into a jar and forget about it. That ugly, dirty 10-cent piece could be holding a spectacular manufacturing error that makes it worth hundreds of times its face value. To the average person, a heavily worn dime from the turn of the millennium is just mundane pocket change. It has a dull appearance, the surfaces are covered in fine hairline scratches, and it might even have a dark, oily film that makes Roosevelt's portrait look completely obscured. But if you know how to look past the surface grime and focus on the shape, the alignment, and the metal composition, you could discover a hidden treasure that completely defies logic. The year 2000 was a massive milestone for the United States Mint as they ramped up production to historic levels to keep up with the demands of the new millennium. Because the factories were running at breakneck speeds 24 hours a day, several unbelievable mechanical failures slipped through the cracks. The first major error to watch out for on an ugly 2000 dime is a spectacular phenomenon known as a die cap error. To visualize how this happens, imagine the coin press operating like a high-speed stapler. A metal blank feeds into the machine, the heavy steel die slams down to stamp the design, and the finished coin is supposed to pop out immediately. Thanks for watching.